Alright, so this was an interesting week for Detroit sports. The Waynes continue to stay alive in the playoff race. Even with the playoffs hopes on life support, they're still within striking distance. The Tigers season gets underway, but in one of the worst ways possible against the Dodgers. And the Pistons continue to get closer to the playoffs, even securing their first winning season in 9 years. So yeah, and of course with the way the Minnesota game ended, there's one thing I can say for sure. The bad boy Pistons are officially back in business. So let's take a look at Detroit sports this week. So starting off with the Red Wings. So the Wings, they concluded their road trip with a first stop in Utah. The Wings' first ever stop in the state of Utah against the Utah Hockey Club. Honestly, the fact that Hockey Club is one of the 3 finalists for the team name is fucking stupid. Like, honestly, that's not a name. Honestly, Utah, get a real fucking name, you pussies. But anyway, the Waynes would take care of business against Utah on the road, hammering them and getting payback for earlier. Yeah, fuck you, Utah. Everyone, it don't matter what your name is. Everyone right now will still call you the Coyotes because you came from Arizona. But honestly, it'll be interesting to see if they go get a real name in the offseason. All I say is, for the love of God, if Utah Hockey Club becomes their permanent name, God help us all. But then the Waynes road trip would end up having the worst outcome possible, as they got blown out by Colorado. Not really surprising. Colorado's honestly a cup contender, or at least a playoff contender, so not really surprising they struggled up in Colorado. And then the Waynes' hard hits continue as they played against Ottawa at home in the first home game back from the road trip against the Senators. And they lost once again to the Senators in heartbreaking fashion. Just, man, no matter what Detroit does, they just can't seem to do well against Ottawa outside that one game they won earlier this year. You know, just in the end, some teams you match up well against and some teams you don't. And for whatever reason, the Waynes just don't match up well against the Sets. But of course, the Waynes would bounce back with a big win against Boston Saturday night. And honestly, the first 5 minutes of that Boston game, that was the type of start the Waynes needed to set the tone for a game early. Because you had the 2 fights in the first 5 minutes of the game, including Alex DeBrincat knocking someone out despite having a 6-inch height disadvantage. Yeah, don't let that 5'8" height from Alex DeBrincat fool you. That little fucker can still fucking throw the hands. And he really threw the hands well. They set the tone there. And then after the 2 fights were done, Marco Kasper having one of the best games of his career, scoring the first goal within the first 5 minutes, setting the tone early in the first 5 minutes. Like, honestly, that's the perfect start you need to have for a game. And honestly, that first 5 minutes, Detroit set the tone with Boston and showed Boston we ain't taking your shit no more. And that effectively also ends whatever playoff hopes Boston had left with the Waynes winning 2-1. Just, yeah, like, after that first 5 minutes, like, Detroit controlled the game after that. Boston was never the same team after that. But yeah, of course, in terms of Alex DeBrincat, though, we already knew DeBrincat was tough and he could fight just based on that Minnesota game last night. When he last month when he laid Brooke Faber's ass out and showed Brooke why you always got to keep your head up. And made Minnesota fans once again cry like little bitches. Hey, don't worry, we're going to get to Minnesota in a little bit. But yeah, the Waynes get the win, and they're still within 3 points of the playoffs with 9 games to go, which 3 points is about a game and a half. So, it's still possible, but they need a lot of help, though, if they want to make it in. And of course, now they got to deal with Montreal in the playoff race, because the Canadiens have officially entered the chat. Holy shit, Montreal is actually fucking good for once. And they may actually make it in without some stupid fucking shit from the pandemic. Damn. Maybe Montreal has hope without Carey Price after all. Or this year is just a 1 year flash in the pan. Time will tell for sure. But you know, the Waynes, though, they still got a shot. But they need a lot more help. Outside help, that is, in the last 9 games. As we're entering the last month of the season. In the last 9 games, it's a sprint to the finish line now. Decide who will be in the Stanley Cup playoffs and who will be out. And now on to the Tigers as well. The Tigers, I honestly thought that 2-game series against San Francisco was a regular season series. I didn't know it was an exhibition in San Francisco. But since it's an exhibition, it doesn't really matter. It's just a warm-up and tune-up session for the regular season. We're just going to skip that over entirely. But now let's get to the actual thing that matters the most for the Tigers. And that's their first series of the year against the reigning World Series champion, the LA Dodgers, a.k.a. the new evil empire. Because the Yankees have been officially dethroned as the evil empire, it is now the Dodgers that have taken that throne. It just now switched coastline. And of course, it's a Tiger series against the Dodgers. It's LA's home opener. And of course, it's the Dodgers unveiled their World Series pennant. And this time, this one's legit and not a Mickey Mouse ring. As yeah, to say the Dodgers took those Mickey Mouse ring jokes personally would be an understatement. And well, the first 2 games of the series, the Tigers played hard with the Dodgers, but the Dodgers showed that all that money they spent in the offseason made it too much for the Tigers to handle as they fell short in the first 2 games. But hey, Spencer Torkelson looked really solid so far, finally living up to the hype he had as the first overall pick. About fucking time. Only took 3 years in the majors to make that happen. But yeah, and of course, the second game, the Tigers even forced the game to extra innings against the Dodgers. Only for the Dodgers to rip the Tigers' hearts out on a 3-run walk-off homer. Damn, that's fucking brutal. You go toe-to-toe with the reigning champs and one of the favorites for the World Series this year, only to fall short on a 3-run bomb in the 10th inning. That's fucking brutal. And in the third game, the Tigers had their first bad game of the year, which is expected. You're going to have a bunch of bad games when you play 162-game seasons. As the Tigers got blown out by the Dodgers 7-3 in the third game, and the Tigers start their season 0-3. So yeah, all I say is, you want to know how you know this is going to be a long baseball season? Take whatever pain you had from that 3-run bomb in the 10th inning against the Dodgers in Game 2, and you multiply that by 20. All I say is, hey, that's only 3 games. It's 159 more to go. And keep in mind, the Tigers didn't really do anything last year until the last month of the year, when they got in the playoffs in the last month. So, hey, it's baseball. The season's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And with how long baseball is, anybody can look hot or cold at any given point in the year. You know, that's just what happens when you open up against the World Series, the reigning world champions, who's a juggernaut now. And everyone crying about how the Dodgers cheated, even though the Dodgers broke no rules. They played within the legal ramifications of baseball. All I say is, don't hate the Dodgers in this situation because your team's a probably run shithole. Get mad at yourself in the game. But yeah, hopefully the Tigers can bounce back later this week with Seattle and then the home opener against Chicago. And at least try and get some wins back on the column. But yeah, honestly, that was probably the worst start the Tigers could have had. But I don't think there was any surprises considering it's the Dodgers. But yeah. And now to the Pistons this week. Well, the Pistons week start off with the round 2 against San Antonio. And of course, San Antonio fans like Marco Averas thought they were going to have a really good shot with the Pistons not having Cade Cunningham for this game. But even though there was no Cade, the story from the last meeting, which was belt to ass, that story is going to continue. And belt to ass, I lost track a long ass time ago, but it's belt to ass number fuck me. Return of the sore ass. As the Pistons once again took this belt and beat the living crap out of San Antonio with it like a dog once, like in the first meeting. Wash, rinse, repeat. No Cade Cunningham, you still get belt to ass, no problem. As the Pistons hammered the Spurs, and with that win against the Spurs, the Pistons have guaranteed themselves a .500 record. Man, that just shows how much a difference 1 year can make. If anyone's wondering where we got this belt from, we got it from the Lions, C-Rad, as he passed it down to us. And Lions C-Rad said they had enough of it being slandered, and they gave it to the Pistons, gave it to me, and said, take this belt on everybody and don't let it off their ass. and that's what we plan to do. But yeah, the Pistons guaranteed their first winning season, their first 500 season since 2019. But of course, there's still room to get even better there. As of course, the next game will be against Cleveland, and the Pistons, they looked like they were at a disadvantage without Cade Cunningham for this game, since Cade's still suffering from a left ankle contusion, and they didn't have Tobias Harris against Cleveland. But even despite that, the Pistons would do something they haven't done all year. They actually hammered Cleveland and gave Cleveland the Cavaliers belt to ass. And for the first time this season, the Pistons finally beat Cleveland. They finally beat the Cavs, hammering them 133-122 in a high-scoring game. But even despite the Cavs' best efforts to come back, the belt was just too strong again for the Cavs. And with the win against Cleveland, it means the Pistons have guaranteed their first winning season in 9 years. The first one since 2016. And of course, the last time the Pistons had a winning record, they went on to make the playoffs that year. Crazy how that works. Hell, the last time they had a 500 record, they made the playoffs too. Like, honestly, this season just shows how much a difference 1 year can make. Because remember, a year ago, they only won 14 games last year. In 1 year, they went from a 14-win laughingstock to now 42 wins and being now a 5 seed. And potentially on the doorstep of a 4 seed in 1 year. That just shows how much a difference 1 year can make when you have the right people calling the shots. And then on to the Sunday matchup against Minnesota. And man, well, this game started out with Detroit giving belt to ass. But the turning point of the game was the all-out brawl in the second quarter, when Minnesota went for a shot and then Ron Holland played defense. And Minnesota took offense. Because, oh no, a Detroit player doing their job on defense. That now broke some unwritten rule in sports, as we saw with the Vikings a couple years ago. And now the Minnesota's out for blood. As that whole thing started an all-out brawl, that would see the Pistons head coach J.B. Bickerstaff ejected along with Isaiah Stewart and Ron Holland. Like 7 players ejected total. And probably a couple players going to get suspensions after they all spin the NBA wheel of discipline. And then after that, the Pistons were not the same team after that. Already dealing with no Cade Cunningham and no Jaden Ivey and no Tobias Harris. And now having no Beef Stew and no Ron Holland in the mix. Yeah, the Minnesota was able to come back and then hammered the Pistons after. As yeah, that ended up being a momentum changer and all that. But hey, at least the Pistons showed they ain't taking Minnesota's shit no more. And also, Isaiah Stewart showing the Detroit logo on the chest to the Minnesota crowd. Nothing to see there. It's just something Minnesota's used to, and that's Detroit sports being Minnesota's daddy again. Just like how the Tigers are the Twins' daddy, and how the Red Wings are the Minnesota's daddy, and how the Lions are definitely the Vikings' daddy. That's for damn sure. But honestly, who really cares about the Minnesota Timberwolves? Like, honestly, they're not even in the same conference as the Pistons, so it doesn't really matter. Like, it's an Eastern, they're in the Western Conference team, we're in the East, so, you know. But of course, that loss, though, it puts the Pistons now 2.5 games back of the 4th seed. As the Pistons currently sit in 5th in the Eastern Conference, they have a game and a half to work with against Milwaukee in terms of the gap between 5th and 6th. But now with the Pistons in 5th, it means now they have some breathing room. And the Pistons are actually a couple games, if they win a couple more games, they can actually lock up a playoff spot real soon. As the Pistons now will have 7 games remaining on schedule, as we now enter April. We'll be entering April when the Pistons play again. As yeah, we're officially heading to April. We're entering the last month of the season. The last 7-game sprint. Who will be in the playoffs and who will be out? And who will be forced to the play-in tournament? And who will be subjected to the draft lottery? A lot of questions these next couple weeks will be answered. But one thing's for sure, the Pistons definitely don't have to worry about not getting eliminated anytime soon with them locked in the play-in spot. But of course, we all know, even if the Pistons do lock up a playoff spot, the job ain't done yet. But the way things are shaping up, the Pistons are most likely going to be playing one of these three teams in the playoffs in the first round. They're either going to be playing the Pacers, the Bucks, or the New York Knicks in the first round based on how everything's going. Going to be very interesting to see how this shapes up these next couple weeks. But I mean, 2.5 games back of Indiana, the Pistons still have a shot to get that 4th seed with 7 games left. But they're going to need a lot of help, though, if they're going to get that 4th seed. Because as it stands right now, the Pistons will be playing Indiana in the first round. And whoever has that 4th seed between Detroit and Indiana gets home court in that playoff series. And we all know home court's pretty crucial. But yeah, anyway, another week of Detroit sports in the books. So yeah.